We as a species have such a small perception of our own history. In terms of the history of life on Earth, we are only a minute detail. We are nothing more than an afterthought. And yet, we are absolutely fascinated with ourselves. We ponder our own origins, and we look at all the life around us, but we refuse to believe that we diverge from the same source. We refuse to believe that in terms of biological components, we are hardly more significant than a field mouse. Aristotle once said, "At his best, man is the noblest of all animals. Separated from law and justice, he is the worst." As a species, we have forgotten that our origins and the origins of all other life forms on Earth are the same. We have forgotten that we don't just live in and around nature, we are nature. Although we may be better adapted to our environment than other species of life, we are hardly any different and shouldn't think of ourselves as such. We, like all life on Earth, are comprised of only a few very special molecules. Our greatest common ancestor formed over 3.8 billion years ago, a simple, single-celled prokaryote comprised of only a circular DNA strand, a membrane, and the few basic components necessary for metabolism and reproduction. All of the information that builds our body can be composed in sequences of just 4 basic nucleotides, no different than even the simplest prokaryote. DNA has grown and adapted over the ages, but only so much. Recently, DNA itself has hardly changed much at all. Most species today are built on a variety of genes that were around in some form or another over 2 billion years ago. From just these few molecular components, all the life around us has formed. The abundant diversity of life is incomprehensible. Life has grown from this simple origin to a complex web of interacting species. Phenotypically, our diversity is astounding. Whether or not we are correct in making such an assumption, we humans, as a species, see ourselves as the pinnacle of evolution. We see ourselves as the most intelligent, most dominant, and most capable species on the planet, and biological evidence generally suggests that we may be right. The origin of humans as a species is a topic in evolution that can sometimes be glossed over or overgeneralized. Many mistakenly believe we evolved from the great apes. In truth, we and the great apes developed from a common ancestor. Of all currently living species, we are most closely related to them. However, further examination of the fossil record shows there were several distinct species in between us and this aforementioned ancestral primate. These intermediate species can be classified as hominoids, which are species that range in diversity from the great apes to us. Hominoid species that are especially close to humans in phylogeny are called hominids. Interestingly enough, at different points in history, as many as 5 hominid species lived on Earth at the same time. In this way, the phylogenetic path of hominids that led to humans is not linear. The point is, humans originate from the same components as all other life on Earth. Our ancestors and the ancestors of primates, dogs, insects, and even trees are the same. We diverged from a series of ancestral species just like any other organism. Like all other species, we evolve, diverge, adapt, migrate, and die. Although we are dominant as a species, we are neither special nor divine. We are a part of nature. The problem is we are not handling our role in nature responsibly. As we have shown ourselves over the history of our species, we have the ability to build, destroy, and control the world around us. Although we are just as much a part of nature as trees, lions, mice, and insects, their fates are to some degree in our hands. Our species dominates the globe. Although it is arrogant to say that we have absolute control over all of nature, it is equally ridiculous to say we have none. Our actions have a significant impact on a great deal of the species we coexist with. How we affect the environment matters because our well-being and the well-being of other species depends on our actions. Since 1920, over 60,000 species of life have become extinct. In the 1800s, the global extinction rate was negligible. Today, an estimated 27,000 species become extinct per year. The correlation between extinction rate and the human population growth is astounding. In the last 80 years, National Geographic estimates that we have lost 93% of the diversity of our crops. Humans use 1,000 barrels of oil every second. That's 86,400,000 barrels a day. Between 2000 and 2005, we cleared 3,500,000 hectares of forest just in Brazil. That's 7,875,000 football fields. Things like deforestation and the burning of fossil fuels contribute to global ecological crises, such as global warming and climate change. Global warming and climate change have led to an increase in the atmospheric carbon dioxide, a decrease in available oxygen, acidification of the ocean, melting of the polar ice caps, heat waves, unique weather patterns, and a loss of dissolved oxygen in oceans. Whether or not we admit it, our actions affect us and the life around us, as well as the stability that our diverse ecosystems have. So all this begs the question, what can we do? What should we do? Are we responsible for the well-being of the organisms around us? And the answer should be yes, for a few reasons. We are a part of nature and we should feel morally obligated to protect and preserve its diversity. We originate from the same ancestors as all life on Earth. We are physically made of the same few molecular components. Logically, our well-being is tied to the well-being of the rest of nature. We rely on a stable and diverse ecosystem of other life forms far more than we can imagine. Everything we eat comes from nature, and yet our agricultural system is failing us. Our crop fields are only as fertile as the chemicals we douse them in. We have removed ourselves from our ecological role in nature, and continuing to do so can only hurt us. As part of nature, we should not only feel responsible for the well-being of life around us, but understand that we rely on its stability. It is in our best interest to protect the diverse ecosystem that we have forgotten we are a part of. We need to understand that although we often observe nature, we are still an impactful part of it. Like all other species, we have a niche. We need to understand and adapt in a way that will create a stable environment. We need to live in nature and not against it.